We're recording. Hey, I want to welcome everybody to the March meeting of the Cowcatcher Division. Today's clinic is put on by Mike Mackey, and the title of it is Operate Like the Pros, Switching Cars in a Prototypical Manner, Part 2. Can you believe it? We got a two-part clinic. David Crumpton, thank you again for letting us, thank the Texas Western for letting us meet here. And do you have any announcements?
No announcements, but I just want to, for those of you that are new here today, please take a moment after the meeting to go around the layout and see all the progress that's being made. We're very glad that you can come when you have, storms and rain and all that kind of stuff. We had power knocked out of the club and most of the Forest Hill area, and it just got restored late Thursday. So we're glad we have a place to meet. So thank you for coming out, and back to Dick.
Okay, do we have any new members or visitors today for the meeting? Any new members or visitors? Okay, who's on Zoom, the Zoom call? Jim Davis, looks like. Jim Davis, welcome. Yeah, Bob Mangrum, thank you for attending. Good whistle last month. And Trainmeister, who's that? Trainmeister, you want to unmute yourself?
I'm working on it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Lee Bangma, Division 3.
Okay, Lee, well, thank you for joining the meeting.
MMR.
Okay, MMR. David Grind's on a cruise with his wife, so the treasurer's report, I'm giving the treasurer's report. That didn't quite sound right, but he's on a personal trip that he paid for. The balance on February was $1,023. We received $6,740. That's that check from the convention. We spent $184, and the balance is $75.81. The CD is still CD is at $22,859.
We hope.
It is. And speaking of money, as mentioned in the whistle, Daryl Cowles, Harold, and are volunteering to look at how we can take some of the proceeds from the convention and better use it to promote the hobby and also to encourage more people to join the NNRY. So, guys, thank you for jumping in on that, and we look forward to what you have to offer probably in a couple of months. Speaking of David Steckler, he and Mike Waters are up the Train-a-Palooza up in Grapevine. They're covering for the division this morning and this afternoon, and then Mike Ross and I are going to be up there tomorrow. So if you get a chance, go up to the Grapevine Convention Center. It's a great show. It's mostly high railers or tin plate, but there are a lot of good model railroaders in Tarrant County you can have a chance to meet. So if you get a chance, please attend. Let me see. Okay, and speaking, I talked about Train-a-Palooza. There's a couple other events coming up that I thought would be of interest to the division. One is the Rocky Mountain Train Show. That's on April 5th and 6th. Then you have the new Bronzefield Train Show, which is on April 12th and 13th. And then Galveston Rail on April 26th and 27th. Or 25th and 26th, excuse me. And on May 17th is Galveston Rail Fest at the museum down there. The details are all on the website, hours, admission, addresses, things like that. But it's a good chance to check out some local shows. Mike, did you have a question?
I had something I wanted to add to your list of stuff. The Tulsa LDOT Layout and Design Operations Weekend is the third weekend of this month. It's an annual thing. If you've never been, it's really, really cool. You go up, check in on Friday. You have an op session Friday night. Saturday morning, you go to, and I guess they're still having it at the Shriners Hall. You can go in there. They've got clinics all day. Lunch is served. It's typically a barbecue catered lunch. Pretty good barbecue that they always bring in there. Then Saturday night's an op session. Sunday morning's an op session. You come home. I don't know if it's the same price as it has been, but typically it's around $75, $85. They do have shirts you can get and stuff like that, but it's a good weekend. And if you're interested, let me know. Or are you going this year?
No, I'm not going to go.
Okay.
It's not LDOS.
It's not? What is it?
No, it's LDOS is every even year.
Oh, okay.
And this new organization, whatever it is, I forget what it is every
Other year.
odd
Yeah.
year.
I talked to one of the guys from Tulsa, in fact, two guys from Tulsa this week, and they were talking about the fact that it's coming up. So something to add to your list.
Okay. And thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody is the Blues Expresses, which is the LSR Regional Convention, is at the end of June. And of course, registration is available now on bluesexpress.com. So again, please go to the cowcatcherdivision.org website. You can get all the detailed information from the website on any event you choose. Baton Rouge. Okay. Mike, any divisional AP announcements?
We've got some people that are going to be turning in paperwork. I know Mr. Pearson and I are going to be getting together next week or so and turning in some paperwork. Daryl Cowles is working on his locomotive for processing that. Mr. Garfield has said that he's working on a couple of things, so congratulations to those people. If you're not actively doing anything in the AP program, strongly urge you to change that approach. It's going to definitely make you a better modeler. It's going to help you progress along on stuff. So if I can help you, let me know. I know several people are working on different things. So and then Eric Smith is been turning in some paperwork. So congratulations to all those people.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, I forgot to make a couple announcements. First of all, Wyatt Cook, could you stand up? Wyatt won the LSR Youth Award from them, and the award will be presented. The award will be presented at the convention, which of course is in Baton Rouge too. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Wyatt, for coming to the meeting today. Appreciate it, and congratulations on the award. And Eric Smith, you got some more stuff to talk about on the convention.
Okay, I know you've heard us talk, Joe Lysing, myself, a lot of us have talked about the convention in Baton Rouge. If you received your marker lamp, you've seen a lot of articles on what to do in Baton Rouge, where to go, places to eat. You know, I gave you a big list of those in one of the marker lamp issues. The next marker lamp, you'll have a list of places to go visit along the way. And also, starting probably this week, you're going to start getting emails on a very regular basis that will cover things like the clinics, op sessions, other things that will be happening at the Blues Express. Now, here's something that I really want to hype up. It may not be as important to you guys as it is to others, but there will be two kind of make and take type clinics. One of them is going to be Dwayne's. He's going to be making the speeder shed. That will be a make and take clinic. I don't know how many of y'all want to get back in that, but it's limited. There's only 18 slots because of the size of the room when they have to put up the tables to work. It's limited to 18 people. So if you want to get in on that, you've got to register now and get your name on the list for that clinic. The other one I will be teaching, and it will be a 4-hour class on how to use Autodesk Fusion. And it will start very simply to take you through the fundamentals of 3D design so that you can actually build something and 3D print it. And the outcome at the end of the 4-hour class is you will have an HO scale gondola that you can print. And that one is also limited to 18 people because of the size of the room. So the early bird registration goes through May. So I really want to encourage you to get in on that now, because don't wait till after that, because not only will the hotel rooms go up, but also the early bird registration fee will go up. So
Is there a listing of the clinics and,
we're still working on that.
Okay, that's not
We've got
published on the
most of
website
them,
yet.
but not totally.
Okay.
And I have been in, the one that's in charge of setting up the clinics, and that is Chuck Lind. He owes me some more information. I have a list of those, and that's what's going to start coming out in the emails to you guys. Will be, and it will go to the whole region, but it will be, these are the clinics, these are the people that are presenting the clinics, this is why you want to go, okay? And there's going to be some very interesting clinics that you will not get anywhere else. And so it's going to be good.
good, thank you, Eric. And speaking of clinics, Harold, do you want to talk about the clinic that's coming up in April and May?
Sure, I guess, although Dwayne may be able to talk about it, since Dwayne's gonna be the one who's running it.
Well, I mean, Dwayne, if you want to talk about it too, you go ahead.
He ought to brag about it, so.
I don't know about brag about it, but I brought the little building back up again this month. This little guy here, this freight house, you want to put us on the overhead? I'll lift the roof off of him and lay him over.
Use our new camera.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. This is going to be a little LCL type freight house. You can be done up as a like an REA kind of building. You can either build it with the timber frame piece of it and a roof covering the whole thing, or you can build it with just the front end of it and forego the other and leave the other end of the platform uncovered if you so desire. You'll get enough material out of it to do it either way. And see if we can get the new toys working here.
Did you say April and May?
Yes. Yeah. So most of the build will be done in April. For those of you who were part of the LCL freight dock build that we did last fall, the bottom of this thing you'll recognize it's basically the same platform, only wider. The construction is the same. It goes together the same. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of gloss over that part of it a little bit because you all have already done that, and we're going to work on building the actual structure piece that sits on the back half.
I need some practice.
Yeah. Well, it's still better than what we had before, for sure. And what we had before was revolutionary. So this is what we're looking at building. Again, you could use it for a lot of different things. This could be used for, like I say, LCL stuff. It could be an REA. It could be, if you've got a railroad that does a lot of dairy, this could be like a milk stop kind of thing where you could pile it full of milk cans and things like that. There are just a lot of options. This could even be a small feed store if you wanted it to be that kind of thing. So there's a lot of options here that could be utilized for it. I'm going to bring some signage for them as well. We'll have the same parts list that we've used in the past, but I'll be getting all that over and letting that get out to the guys of tools you'll need to bring, a couple of shades of paint. And the difference with this one, we're looking at about $45 each in HO. It'll be a little bit less than that in it'll be just slightly more than that in S and O. And the reason it's a little more expensive on this one is you're going to get detail parts to go with it. Cole and I have teamed up on this, and he's putting together a package of detail parts, figuring that this would be like an REA kind of a structure. But if you want to make it something else, obviously grab your own detail parts and all that. But the kit itself's looking like it's about $30 and about $15 for the parts in HO. But I think it's gonna be a fun build. We are picking to do this over a 2-month stretch, just so we make sure we have plenty of time for everybody to get the construction side of it done. But what we anticipate is we'll have, you guys have built the dock part of this before. So you guys know what this, how that goes together. You're familiar with building the little X bracing and all that kind of stuff. You laminate the two pieces together, you put the deck on it, you're done, right? We're going to concentrate on building this part here, adding the timber frame piece, which that's one piece, that's one piece, that's a piece, that's a piece, and that's a piece, and you'll have 3 good-sized trusses to go on top of it. Super simple to do. It's going to be a really fast build, but we wanted the extra time just to make sure everybody gets through all the construction piece of it. But we also wanted to have part of May. We're going to hope that Cole is available for us, and he's going to teach us how to paint detail parts. And if there's anybody in this room that is absolutely stellar at painting detail parts, it's Cole Rash. I'm going to have to up my game to keep up with that kid. But he's going to give us a tutorial, and we're going to bring they're either going to get the parts printed where they're already a dark color, so they're ready to paint, or we're going to prime at least the 2 of the parts, something like that. That way it's ready for you guys to start putting paint on the detail parts. So that part of it is still a questionable. A part of it's going to depend on his schedule, but that is the game plan for part of May as well.
And because of the cost, we're going to be subsidizing $20 worth. So, because we know
very
it's a little bit more than
Very
the
cool.
usual make and take.
So heck yes, sign up quick.
It's a good opportunity for the division to kind of pay back to the members and use some of the proceeds from the convention. So we're going to kick in $20 for everyone who signs up for the. Daryl?
Can we claim that as part of our task of promoting?
No, this is separate from that.
Good try, Darryl.
Good try.
Dwayne, this could, if I'm not mistaken, could this also be like that little oil jobber up in, was that the city of Oklahoma?
Oh yeah, you could do up in Atoka. If you've ever drive up into southern Oklahoma, if you go up 75, it turns into 69 at the Red River. From my house, it's just at 2 hours to get from my house in North Garland up to Atoka. When you're driving into the south side of Atoka, you're going to come up to a traffic light, and there's a McDonald's sitting there. Right next to the McDonald's on the north side of it is a oil supply place, and back in the back on there is an old Texaco oil depot that used to sit somewhere else in town, and they moved it off the main line and moved it over there to this particular facility. And it is definitely worth a hike up there to take some pictures, take some measurements. They're really friendly about it. I've walked in there and told them on a couple of occasions, hey, I build models. Give you mind if I would like to go out there and take some pictures, maybe take some measurements and all of that. And they're like, yeah, sure. And it's like, one of these days, would it be possible to get somebody to like unlock the door and just let me stick my head in long enough just to see if there's any walls inside or anything like that? And they go, the guy with the keys isn't here today, but I don't think it'd be a problem. So at some point, I'm going to call up there and try to make some arrangements and drive back up there because it just begs to be built. It is a nice, small little, it was on a rail line at one point. It would make a nice little oil depot. And yeah, you could certainly do that with this too. We got a freight door on this side, so obviously track side. The other side just has a man door, and we'll give you some stairs for it. But I left this side of it open. I didn't put any windows on it because I wanted to leave that available for signage. So we've got plenty of room to put different signs on there. I've got some REA stuff that I've collected, and some of it, thank you, Daryl. I've got some REA stuff that we can put on here. It's got a nice big window in the back. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun little project. You've got freight door there, freight door here kind of deal. It'll be a quick build, but it's got a lot of detail to it. It can make a nice little addition to just about any railroad in any era. And the nice part is it's 1 3/4 wide and 6 inches long. That'll fit almost anywhere. So, and I do have an AP one to give out.
Yes, I was going to
Perfect.
ask you to go into that.
Okay. In that case, I have one to give out. Eric did turn in his paperwork for one. I sent it up to National and it disappeared into the ether somewhere. So we will, I've resent that up there. We'll make sure that is.
I talked to Ray the other day and he's kicked it back. He didn't want it.
Yeah, nice. So the other one we have to award. Yeah, I thought I saw Mal around here somewhere. Mal, where are you? There you are. Come on forward. Mal has now become part of what might be the longest running attempt to get an AP certificate approved and printed and handed back. He sent me the paperwork and I never got it on email. He printed it off and sent it back with somebody, and I finally got it like 2 months later. He finally delivered a copy by hand to me in December, and then he went in and had his head operated on. So we finally have a chance to award Mal his golden spike. Congrats, sir. I think we're about 8-9 months in the making. Hey, you want an envelope to take it home in? There you go. It's got a little,
That way you won't lose it.
little cardboard stiffener. Yeah, I hope not, because if it takes us another 9 months to get it printed, we're in trouble. Mike did allude to something a second ago, and it's something that I say up here. So if you guys who have been here before have heard me say this a lot, get involved in the AP because it will, I guarantee, make you a better modeler. Let's see, how many MMRs we got in the room right now? We got me, Mackey, Palmer, and Jim and David up here. Every one of these guys will tell you the same thing I just said. When they got started on this, they felt like they were probably okay, but could stand to learn a few things. And when they got done, they will tell you flat, I was a lot better modeler when I finished. It's going to do a lot of things for you besides just getting you to scratch build things and getting you to try building track work that you may not have tried hand laying track before. It may stretch your goals a little bit in different aspects of it, but all of it's fun to do. There's a little bit of something in there for everybody. You've only got to get 7 out of the 11, so there's a lot of different things you might like. You're like, oh, I'm not going to scratch build a locomotive. Great, you got 10 others to pick from. It will, when you're done, make you a much, much better modeler. You're going to learn to use new things, new materials, new ways of doing things. You're going to be wanting to learn new ways of doing things. You're going to hear about somebody that's come up with a new way to use, Windex and toilet bowl cleaner to create rust. And you're going to be, really? And you're going to go straight out and buy a bottle of Windex and a bottle of toilet bowl cleaner. And you're going to be in there with some Campbell sheet metal going, hey, that works. I like the old way of doing it better, but this is cool. There's little things like that. And you're going to get to a point where you're wanting to learn new techniques. You're going to be diving down the rabbit hole on YouTube, watching all these guys out there. And you might get done with a video and go, okay, I know 3 ways not to do it now. Or you might get a nugget out of it and go, oh boy, because I've been using acid and this over here to create rust, and he just did it with 2 colors of paint. Wonderful. So yeah, it's one of these things that, can you do it without the AP? Sure. But will the AP help encourage that along the way and help give you a little recognition for what you're doing, which gives you a little encouragement to keep doing it? That's what we're here for. Don't think you've got to do it all on your own. You've got help. You've got people you can ask questions to, ask details of. And the other biggie, and I wanted to let everybody know this one too, coming up soon, you can do the AP on that guy right there. They are working on an app. They've got the app up, but they are working on an AP portion of it where you can log in on your cell phone and pull it up. You can go to an operating session is a good example of this. And let's say Mr. Packer here is having an operating session. You can go over, you can operate at Jim's. When you get done with it that evening, you can hand your phone to Jim. Jim will go over there and said, yep, Eric was here and he was the yard master. And it's going to log your time. If you get a model scored up here, you can come in, you can hand me your phone. Yep, Mr. Brandon over here built the freight house. It scored 103, and I sign off on it, and boom. Once you get all the requirements put together, you can look it over, review it. You can attach your drawings to it or anything you may need to attach as far as that goes, depending on the certificate you're going after. And you can hit submit. It sends it to me. I can look over and review it. I click a button, and it shoots it straight to national on the spot. Just boom, boom, boom. Yeah, you're not filling out War and Peace where the paperwork all the time and writing in all your name and your address and your membership number and your phone number and this and that and a blood sample and your firstborn male child and all that kind of stuff. And kind of think of it, given the right week, I'd probably give you my firstborn male child. Nah, he's a good kid. But at any rate, the AP is about to get streamlined a little bit. This is out. Speed's been doing some testing with it. I'm hoping that we'll be up and be able to do like beta testing on it here soon. I haven't had a chance to talk with Speed recently to find out when we're going to be up on that, but I have seen a demo of it and it is very slick. So with any luck, we'll be making life easier on that front as well, freeing up your time to build more models, to get more stuff evaluated, to get your MMR. Any questions? I am here just about every month when humanly possible. If you've ever got questions, you want to drag me off to the corner and talk, we can talk. You want to step outside and talk about it, we can step outside and talk about it. You want to give me a call, my phone number is on the LSR webpage. Go to the officers page, scroll down past all the pretty faces on the board, and you can give me a call. Mike's also your division AP guy. You can give Mike a ring as well. If Mike doesn't have an answer for you or can't make one up on the fly, he'll call me. And I'll make one up on the fly. And if worse come to worse and neither one of us know, then I'll reach out to Ray and we'll get a note from National on it. I have shot a question up to Ray and I do need to follow up with him because I've not gotten an answer on it yet around 3D printing and what would count as scratch built and what won't. We do know right now the ruling is if you draw the part, it's considered scratch built. However, there's new technology out here in play, and Cole and I are getting ready to start playing with it, and we're going to find out, how well does this work. So, and whether or not it's going to count for scratch building. So we'll find out, and as soon as I know, I will let you know, one way or the other.
Dwayne, thank you very much.
You betcha.
Okay, so let's move into the question and answer period. Does anybody got a problem on their layout? Any issue that you're having, question you might have? Back to Dwayne.
My training room's full of my daughter's stuff. Can anybody help me get rid of that?
You could organize a work party and we could help you.
She came in this last weekend and removed about 3/4 of it, so I'm hoping to start building benchwork sometime this summer.
Good.
I believe it when I see it. Yeah.
So other than moving equipment out of a bedroom or furniture out of a bedroom, anybody else have a question on their layout that this group of experts can help you with? Dan.
I wanted to build,
Microphone behind you is probably the best one.
I want to build the spring to install on a non-sprung turnout, and it sits between the throw bar and the preceding tie. What gauge wire should I use to do that with, to have enough tension but enough flexibility to hold the points on one way or the other?
Mr. Pearson? That's a very good question. I don't know. I'll look it up for you.
Thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
I ordered an Atlas modern hooded signal double headlight, signal light. I didn't realize what it was on eBay until it came and opened the box and, oh crap, it's Atlas. I thought it was one of those Chinese things. These things have the plugs on the bottom. Do I need 2 controllers for it or 1? But I needed to be able to switch the top and the lower hood from my curved turnout. One goes right, one goes left.
You talk about a signal head.
Signal head, yeah.
Okay, and it's just a two color signal head.
3.
3 color signal head.
Double hooded. That thing.
Oh, okay, you need one for each.
Yeah. So do the controllers hook up to the snap relay
turnout.
switch?
The turnout. And if you're doing anything other than a tortoise, you're gonna have some difficulty.
Yeah, that particular turnout snap.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not using snap turnouts anymore.
those snap things don't work well with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I found out.
The only way you get away with it if you don't use a tortoise is if your controller for the switch is a double pull, double throw.
Okay.
Then you can do that.
Yep, that's true.
Because all the new additions to the layout, I'm not using any more snap switches. They're all going to tortoise. And I already
When
installed.
you throw your snap switch, is it a push button that does it?
Yeah, but I got a snap relay here.
Yeah, you're gonna need to get a double pull, double throw. It's gonna have to be rewired, like.
Just get a couple more snap relays.
Yeah, I
Just a
got it.
couple more snap relays to do it. I mean,
Yeah. It's just that they got plugs on the end of that darn thing, meant to be plugged into one of those electronic controllers. But I won't be able to use that on a snap relay, I don't think.
Yeah.
No. I figured. Thanks.
Okay, how about something else? Any other questions? Everybody's got a layout that's running perfectly, right? Everything's good? Everything's good?
Thanks to Tom Pearson, yeah.
Okay. So how about tips and tricks? Dwayne, do you have a tip or trick? Or Mike, do you have a tip or trick?
This one I learned a couple of this past week, okay? You're using rattle can, I'm gonna credit this to Mr. Pearson. You're using a rattle can to spray anything. Put it in some warm water before you start spraying it. And let it warm the can and the paint up. When you do that, it gives you a much finer mist and a smoother spray. Thank you, Tom, it worked great.
You're really an unknown person on the web.
Actually, there was an article in something Railroad Model Craftsman or something that talked about that too.
Yeah, there's bits of
Yeah. You got one? You got something?
got 2.
Come on up.
Okay.
Use this microphone if you could.
Okay, this one I know has been written up and has been seen, but maybe not everybody's seen it. If you need some small clamps, the Surrey light spring small clamps, you can start with a spring-loaded clothespin. And these things are really expensive. It was $1.25 for 60 of them, you know, at the formerly known as a dollar store, which they haven't renamed the $1.25 store yet, but, you know. The tricky thing on this is don't break a fingernail and get things slid right. Okay, these are really cheaper than the old ones I had. So this is what it starts like. And this is what it ends like. So what you have to do is twist and get this. Then you have to do one so you can look at it and figure out how am I going to do the other ones, because but between the first one and the second one, you forget how you do it. It may just be an old age thing, I don't know. Okay, so you kind of hold them together. All right, that's the way I'm going to have it. Now the tricky part that's going to break a few fingernails unless you have a little screwdriver is getting the spring where you want it. I'm looking at the old one to make sure I get it.
Maybe do it under the camera there.
Here, how about this? Hold on. I'm standing here doing nothing. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got the two wooden pieces and the spring, and this is what I want to end up with, okay? So, and some of the older clothespins that are more expensive, they probably go $2.50 or something, have a few more slots, so you can kind of go with it. So I try to slide the one piece in. I was never known for coordination as a kid, and I grew out of it even then. And so on this one, I'm going to slide. There's a little slot there that I can slide into. See, did I get it right? Yes. God. I'm glad this is being immortalized then. Then you take the other piece, and here's where it becomes a little harder because you got to pry this little sucker up. Can you still see it if I do it on this side? Slide that under. I got it upside down. So there you go. Yeah, the trick is, the other trick is making sure the spring doesn't end up across the room someplace, which you never find it, you know. You know.
Get a screwdriver and lift it up.
Yeah, that is the best way to do it. But you might not always have the screwdriver. Okay, so this actually should slide back a little bit because there's a notch. So try to slide it back to the notch. Come on. Okay, there's one notch. So it's a $1.25 for 60 pieces, and it's 2.5 hours to put one together. So depending what your time is, since I'm retired, you know, it doesn't cost much. So there you go, and that gives you a nice flat, a long flat clamp that works well. So
Thank you.
the other item, and like I say, this was written up in a magazine somewhere where it was easy. And, you know, a lot of times you think of things and you think, damn, I'm bright. You know, this is really a breakthrough. And then you go through an old magazine and you find it again and, you know, it's not a breakthrough. Well, I did come up with something that is a semi. Like many clubs, we have plexiglass to keep little fingers off the cars and everything. And one of the, and sometimes that plexi, the track runs so close to the edge that you have very little room between the plexi and the track to put any scenery in. So I was looking at that and I said, well, let's make a foreground. And not that I'm a great painter, but I took as a test piece, because I thought, well, we can paint on the back of the plexi on a real one. But I took some flexible, something, you know, and I painted a couple trees on both sides. And the reason I did both sides is it, you know, it gives you a semi-depth picture. So, and we're trying some, if you go, you're looking in the layout over there, you'll see some pieces that we have up there. Now, the issue is if you don't do some painting on the back of your plexi shield is how you're going to attach this stuff. And that I haven't solved. I've tried some magic mending tape, but that you see because it's, you know, it's kind of blurry. But, you know, if you have a place where the track runs close and you want to get a little foreground scenery, even though this isn't the best paint job in the world, it gives you an idea that that's what it is.
That's just different. I've never seen anybody do that.
Yeah, very good.
So temporarily, you can use your new clamps. Clamp that to the loose idea.
Put longer, paint the trees or putting the clamp together?
Actually, the clamp, I think, you know. So I've become a semi-fan. Darryl mentioned of Bob Ross. You know, got some old pictures, you know. And that guy just sits there, you know, and he'll paint something the size of that whiteboard in 30 minutes, you know, and he's just talking about it and doing it. And it took me a little bit longer to do these, but the leaf part is easy. I haven't solved the trunk problem yet, but, you know, I'm working.
So now that you have all these clamps, you're wondering what to do with them. You know, you're spraying a tree with adhesive, you're spraying a tree to change the bark color, and you don't want to ruin something or have to peel all the paint off the hemostat or whatever Mike or I use, these expensive surgical equipment. You use the clamps because then you throw them out.
And you can also, and you also, if you want this stuff to dry, you just put the tree in there, you know, and have it sit on the table and let it dry.
But that's what I found best use for them because I had no concerns about throwing them out when we were all paint.
When they're at 2 cents a piece, yeah, forgetting labor, you know. Thank you.
Eric.
David, I'm going to need the overhead camera just for a second. Okay, this one I kind of thought up because of something Dwayne said a while ago, and he was talking about going to up to Atoka to measure that. How many of you have iPhones? Okay, did you know that there is something on your iPhone called Measure? Okay, I don't know if you saw that icon. I'll go back to it. It's this icon right here. Measure is very neat in that you can come over and you can click on a point and you can move that over to the other side, stop it, and it will tell you the dimension. You can do this for a whole room. You can do it for the outsides of a building. You can do it, you can do it small spaces, but like my wife and I have been out to look at houses and stuff like that. And if they've got a barn where I want to maybe put my layout shop, I'll measure the dimensions of that barn using the measure tool. And so it's very useful for if you're going to go measure a building out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have to carry a measuring tape. You just click on one point, click on the other end, and you've got the distance.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, so let's go. Oh, we got a lot of tips and tricks. Go ahead, Mike.
When we were getting the lesson on the clips, the clothespins, since you're not going to probably use the entire package for all of your clips, one of the things you can do that I do on my layout, take those clothespins just straight out of the package, put hot glue on them, stick them to the back side of your fascia. Then you can take your your curtain that you're going to put in there, and then just clip it to the back side of your fascia. If you need to take it down while you're working, unclip it from the clothespin, you get ready to put it back, just stick it back in there, and you're good to go.
Okay, so let's move into show and tell. Stu, you have a show and tell item?
Yeah.
Stu? Show and tell?
Okay, there you go. Let me switch hats. Okay, we're gonna do the old, Stu's going first.
Stu's up first.
Oh,
The
that's
assembled
Steve.
multitude.
Stu.
There are a great number of people that don't know that there's a Fort Worth Aviation Museum. We're over at the southeast corner of Meacham Field. And for those of you that really care, but we have a great assortment of aircraft that have come to us through legal means. They for the most part, they all arrive on a truck or in a basket. We've had some really basket cases, but we have an F-14 Tomcat, just like that, a Top Gun. We have an F-15, any number of the smaller strike aircraft. We have one of the Blue Angels aircraft, an A model F-18. We have the F-5 that was used in the movie Top Gun to simulate the MiG. It lives over there too. And we have the very first F-16 prototype. It was built here in town, and it was used for this and that, and ultimately it wound up in New York at Rome Air Development Center, and they used it for God knows what all. And finally, it got to the point where it's like, okay, we're through with this, and they were going to just trash it, and we got one of the Texas senators involved, and she leaned on them, and they gave the aircraft to us. It has a very distinctive paint job. It came here in basket, and our guys worked on it, got it into shape. It looks like it's ready to fly, except it doesn't have an engine. But it has the original red, white, blue paint job, and it's different from all other F-16s because it has a two-piece nose gear door, which is not a big deal, but when you look at that, it says, yeah, this is a really old plane. Several years back, the Navy was going to acquire, I think it was called the A-11, and it was going to be a strike aircraft to take over the A-6 role, and it never got further than it didn't even make it to prototype. They got it as far as the flight simulator, and with all the technology involved, the Navy pilots came and they said, this flies like a big pile of doo-doo. And the thing, it never went anywhere. But there was a mock-up built, a full-size mock-up, and when the program died, what are we going to do with this? Well, let's send it over to the museum. So we have this. It's the only one in the world, and it looks better now than it did 2 years ago, and it will look better as time goes by. Anyway, what am I here for? Next month is the Pops and Props, ta-da, 10th annual, and they invite a whole mess of the local brewers, their microbreweries. They come out and they dispense their wares. There's music and there's food trucks and there's dancing and singing. Well, there's food trucks anyway. Dancing and singing is optional. But anyway, it's a great time. And if you have any interest in aviation, come out and look at our airplanes. They look like they're ready to fly for the most part, except they don't have engines, and of course they ain't gonna. I run the RF-8 trailer. It's in a semi. It was a flight simulator in the way back days, and now
Stu?
there are 1,000 relays. Yeah.
Yeah, here's a picture of the YF-16.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's our new F-16. The thing that really makes it different, just looking at it, is that sharp nose. If you're an F-16 knowledge at all, the F-16s all have more of a bulbous nose because it's got a radar antenna in there. So anyway, that's it. Hops and props. It's drinking and airplanes. Are you kidding me? Well.
Okay, Stu, thank you very much.
What's the date? What's the date?
What are the dates? The dates of the show.
Next weekend.
What are you asking?
What are the dates of Hops and Props?
All right, good. The hearing, I'll tell you. April 26th. This is kind of premature. I noticed that about 5 minutes ago. So come out and see us and have a brewski. Come into the gray semi-trailer and say hi to me, especially if you're a photo person. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Steve Crise.
Okay. Yes, sir. Widen out. Okay. All right, so I made my annual trek to the Nevada Northern, which I do every February. I was there for 17 days, and I worked for the railroad doing publicity photos and their night photo shoots. And is this microphone okay? Yeah, okay. So there you go. If you want to know more about the Nevada Northern, it's NNRY.com. Easy enough to remember. Next, please. So basically what it is are 2 weekends in a row that have a photo excursion. What a photo excursion is you board the train in Ely, Nevada, you go out on the line, you get off, the train runs by, you take pictures of it all day, you come back for lunch, you go back in the afternoon, and you do the same thing. There's 35 miles of track available for photography. So we go out on the line and utilize the steam engines, diesels, and other equipment that they have available for photography. Next, please. And we will set up things like this. You can capture images that somewhat mimic the old style of photography with steam engines and hand signs and hand signals. And you're basically out in the middle of nowhere in a great part of the world taking pictures. Next, please. So they acquired this. This is a 1930 Brill Model 55 self-propelled rail car. It originally came with a distillate engine. Now it has a Chevy big block in it with a turbo 400 transmission. And there's also a transmission in the rear truck that allows you to go forward or reverse. That's the original part of the original equipment, because you can't make a transmission in a Chevy go backwards except for one speed. So they had to, that was part of the original construction. So we're actually looking at the rear end. The front end is considered, the other end is considered the front. Although it's dual operation, you can sit at either end and operate the car. Next, please. So this became an immediate toy. We had to take it out on the line. This is a Thursday before the excursion, and after it was put together, it didn't have the headlights or the Cowcatcher on it. Threw it together, took it out on the line, and it performed beautifully. The reason that they purchased this was that during the summer, sometimes they don't get the crowds that they want, so rather than dragging out a diesel or a steam engine, they can fit 45 people into this thing, and it's much more economical to operate. Next, please. Well, prototypical. It was originally built for the Sperry rail car company, and that was if you know what Sperry is, they did inspection work. so on and so forth. Then after that, I believe it worked for the Remington Rifle Company that shuttled their employees back and forth. And it spent a lot of time at various museums, and it finally ended up here. Hopefully, its forever home at the Nevada Northern. Next, please. This is one of the work trains that you go out on. We typically now use the Doodlebug or the Brill car, whichever you prefer, as the chase locomotive, and you ride in that, and you follow, or you're ahead of that, and you get off the Brill, and you position yourself for the work train to go by. Next, please. Here's one of the first shoots we did with the Brill and the Engine 93. This is at the Highline Junction. And again, this is a photo stop where the track is locked down and you can walk on the track, lay down on the track, take pictures, do all the kind of things you're not supposed to do in the comfort and safety of a crew that is watching over you. Next, please. And a little trick of Photoshop, you can antique your photo, kind of make it look as if it was shot during the day of 1930s, which there is a possibility that this car was actually at the Nevada Northern. It's the only original piece of, the non-original piece of equipment currently operating at the railroad, but there is a possibility that Sperry did work for the Nevada Northern, so they're currently researching that. Next, please. Just different opportunities that you can create. This was not something that was staged. This was happening during the positioning of some of the cars, but it makes a nice photo nonetheless. At least I thought so. Next, please. During the week, in between the charters, I got a lot of time, so I rigged up this lantern with a strobe inside of it, and I did various portraits using just the lantern for a light source. Next, please. Utilized it here as well with another strobe on the locomotive, and the lantern had a very small strobe that would fire with all the other strobes. So it's basically just a two-light setup. Next, please. Also, the Nevada Northern has a full machine shop where they do their own repair. We see right here they're making new fire brick for locomotive 81. So if they have the fire brick that cracks or breaks during operation, it's almost like mixing cement. In fact, it's pretty much the same. But it takes a lot longer to cure, and here they are, these special forms. The form at the top there are corner pieces that go inside the firebox. Next, please. Not a very sophisticated operation. He's using a 2x4 to get the air bubbles out of the form. Next, please. Also, they have a complete scale house. Scale house was originally used to weigh the ore cars, and that was a very important part of the mission, so they knew how to bill for the shipment of the ore to the main line. And in this case, they are weighing the drivers of 93 to see that the weight on all the drivers is equal. So that's a very important thing on a steam engine. If you have one that's high or too low, you get slippage, so on and so forth. So they have to adjust the spring mechanism to match the weights. Next, please. Yeah, some of the more unusual things you'll see. Where else can you see a VO 1000, a GE 25-tonner, and an SD9, all in the same consist? Where can you see that? Only at the Nevada Northern. Next, please. One of the other things that I encountered while I was there, as I mentioned, they have their own repair facilities, and in this case, we're underneath an RS2, Alco RS2. And what they're doing here is they're putting a new wheel profile on one of the, this is the VO 1000. And they're putting a new wheel profile on the wheel without taking the wheel off the locomotive. So how they do that is they bring the locomotive under a pit, they jack up one end of the truck, they disconnect, you can see the cables there that go to the traction motor. They're labeled yellow-green so they know where to put them back. And they use a Lincoln arc welder to operate the traction motor, to turn the traction motor as they slowly use the head off of one of the lathes to cut a new profile in the wheel without having to take the wheel off. Now, there are more sophisticated ways of doing this, but this is how they do it at the Nevada Northern. Now, next, please. So you can see this is the other side of the wheel. You can see the wheel, and there's the lathe cutting part. He's cutting in a new profile. Next, please. And there's a close-up shot. It looks exactly like a lathe, except you tack weld it to the rail so it doesn't move, and you slowly create a new profile on the wheel. Next, please. So we did this publicity shot on one of the Sunday mornings, so you could see the variety of equipment that the railroad has. Unfortunately, right now they only have one of the 3 steam engines operational, but they're expected to have 81 done this year, which is another one of their Alco consolidations. There's the one of the Alco RS2s, of course, the Brill car, and I think it's a 1951 Pontiac High Rail. All of these are operational. You can go there, and for a extra fee, you can operate them. So next, please. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any more show and tell?
Question for Steve. Are they getting any closer to McGill?
That's a good question. McGill is one of the destinations that they're trying to reach. They're trying to write a grant for that right now. They didn't get it last year. They wrote a grant, didn't get it. They're getting close. That's probably a $12 million project. So it's not something you can really fundraise for because you're not going to get 12 million out of the public. So it has to come from either a federal or state source, but they are getting close.
We're going to see a long article on the Nevada Northern in one of the publications.
No, I don't. No. No is a short answer.
He is going to do a small clinic in June about a little more detail on this thing.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yes, I will.
I thought he was. Maybe not.
And as
next May.
As long as we're talking about clinics, I will be doing the Rod Stewart Clinic in the June Baton Rouge convention. So at least that's what they said. They're vacillating between 2. I think that's the one they settled on. So we'll see.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Russell, you got something?
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's rusty.
I got a text message from the director at large anyway, my wife. Don't forget to vote for the LSR. All the officers and stuff are out there, so check your emails and cast your vote.
Thank you, Russell. Very good. So let's, if there's no more show and tell, we'll move into deal or dud. And Trapper, you want to bring the coupons up? Okay, so does everybody know how deal or dud works? I think everybody's experienced with that, so.
Who hadn't had a dud yet? I'm glad Grimes gone.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Can't let you draw the first one.
Okay. There you go. The number is 084.
Hey, look at that, I finally won.
Right. We just talked.
Man, that was quick.
I told you this is
Which
the winner,
one?
Trapper.
Which one?
Let's go number 1.
That's because Grimes in here.
Do I open it now or do I have to wait?
No, you got to open it now.
There we go. Oh, look at that, $25 and some milk duds.
All right.
What a deal.
Yeah!
All right. No, don't go sit too far.
All right.
Draw, take it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You'll have to read it.
Okay, the winning number is 073.
All the new people.
Mr.
All
Cook.
right. All these young people. Which one?
3.
What you got in there?
Milk duds.
Uh-oh.
Just milk duds.
Ain't
You
get
got the dud. Well, at least you got 2 packages, one for you, one for Wyatt.
Oh, come back here. I need you to pull. Yep.
I was gonna chase you.
That's very fortuitous.
090 is the winning number. 090.
This man does get it. Which one? The blank or the? Unnumbered. I'm gonna help him since he's right there. There you go.
$15, model train crossing free. And
There you go.
goodies.
And goodies.
Whoa, thank you.
Pull the last ticket.
The winning number is 070.
Oh, Mackey. Get that out of here.
You want box number 2 or box number 2?
Let me hit box number 2.
Okay, here you go.
I was really worried about you on that.
Well,
How you doing there? $10 at
model train crossing.
Thank y'all.
So when you cash in your gift certificate, make sure you tell Model Train Crossing thank you. They're being very supportive of the group, of the division.
Supportive.
So we appreciate their hard work. We're going to take a short break now. Make sure you feed the kitty for your coffee and donuts, and we'll get back together again. I got a little after 11, so we'll get back together in about 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Sure. Okay, Mike, thank you for putting on the second half of your clinic. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, thank you. I hope you didn't get bored silly with last month's clinic. I had a lot of good feedback from different people, and thank you for that. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. This month, we're going to take it a step further and talk about some specifics. Last month was pretty general, but this month is going to be a little more specific. And then we're going to get into some other ideas at the very end of the clinic. So this is going to be efficient. What are we doing AI on the bottom here that's copying everything I'm saying? Yes. Isn't that interesting? All right. Exactly. So, okay. Efficient railcar switching, mastering the moves, planning, knowledge, optimization for streamlined operations. Now this is kind of being a blend between actual railroading and model railroading. And we're going to try to tie the gap there and make it together. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Next slide, please. Okay, today we're going to cover the importance of efficiency, the foundation of planning, leveraging the location knowledge. We talked about a couple of these points last time, if you'll remember. The art of blocking, addressing customer needs. Now, this is not just, the real railroads have to do it, but if we're going to do our operations on our layout, we need to think about that as well. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. The pursuit of the fewest moves. That's a very, very key thing here. We'll talk about that because remember what was the number one point about switchmen? They're lazy. Fewest moves. That's exactly. All right. Okay, next. Nope, back one. I wasn't. Complicating things for additional frustration. All right, that's the fun part. Okay, next. All right. As you can see from that picture, it's very important for efficiency. Slow and inefficient rail car movements significantly contribute to delays in all rail shipping operations. About 60% in real life, 60% of a car's life is spent in a yard, in a classification yard. Think about that, okay? A substantial amount of rail time is spent in the yard due to poor switching. Inefficient movements lead to wasted direct labor time and compound the existing labor shortages. I'm sure that the people who work for the railroad here will tell you that, and Trapper, This, I'm going to call on you probably several times today. So, all right. How many times when you were switching at Centennial Yard, now Davison Yard, did you have to re-switch cars that somebody else messed up on? All the time. All the time. And that's exactly to this point right here. Inefficient movements lead to wasted direct labor time. Higher fuel consumption and efficiency, these are all things that the real railroads have to consider. All right? The ultimate goal is to achieve fewer moves, reduce walking distances because we're lazy, and obtain optimal rail car coupling sequences. In a hump yard like this, maybe that's not a hump yard, it may be a flat yard, but in a hump yard, one of the jobs that you have is what's called a bolt. There's the hump. You've got somebody that's shoving cars over the hump. You're working the crest. That's called the crest job. And I can't tell you how many miles I walked up and down the crest at Inglewood Yard when the conductor sitting in the tower is sitting there. It's a three-man job. The conductor's in the tower. He's looking at the switch list that's coming up in this whole string of cars as it's shoving up over the crest. And he's going to give me 2. I'll take 1. I need 3. You never do more than 3 unless you actively shove over the top of the crest with a cut of cars, but you never cut and let more than 3 cars go into the bowl at the same time. It's too much of an impact and it's too hard on the retarders that are slowing the car down as it goes into tracks. Okay, so 3 cars max. Okay, but he will tell you 1, 2, or 3, and you're walking back and forth. And what you have to do is you walk along beside the car with your hand on the cut lever, and as the car, it's shoving, so the slack is tight, but then gravity will take over and the car will come over the top of the crest and it'll start going faster than the shove. And when it does, you get a little bit of slack right there, and that's when you pull the pin, because as long as it's tight, you can't pull the pin. So you pull over the top of the crest, you pull the pin, it'll give you slack, and the pin will open up and open the coupler up, and the car will continue on down. All right, so it's a fine point that the engineer who's shoving is moving at a steady enough pace, slow enough that the switchman can walk beside the car, and then when the time's right and that slack comes in there, then you pull the pin, the car goes down. Okay? Now,
How often do you miss that point?
you don't. You just don't. Now, if you do, okay, you just flag down, the engineer backs up, and you shove it back over the top again. But now, the other person, that's 2 of the crew, okay? Remember I told you there was 3? There's another person that's sitting in a pit as the train comes by, and you're sitting below track level, and there's light shining up underneath the car. And you're looking for brakes that are set or dragging equipment or things like that as basically a rolling inspection. But if the brakes are set on the car, you've got to jump up, run out, get in, and come out of the pit, go get to that car and release the air on that brake so that it will be bled off by the time it goes over the crest. So you're probably 50 yards back from the crest, and you've got some time to react. Okay, and if you have problems, you just flag them down, stop everything, and keep on going. So it's not that big a deal. Okay. Okay. There are various solutions to switching problems, but some are more efficient and quicker than others, as you can well imagine. Next slide, please. All right, the foundation of planning. Look at this scene here, and these pictures that I've inserted in here, I've used for a very specific reason. You can see that in the picture on the far left-hand side, you've got your 2 locomotives, and they're in a location where they can come out and get to any track along that way. They can come in here, they can come out here, all the way back down and pull these cars, and you've got several tracks here that are empty, and you can sort them. Notice how these switches are positioned right here and right here and right there. This one, and this one can give you access to all 4 tracks. They're very in close proximity to each other, so you're not walking a long way for all of those switches, excuse me. Now, as opposed to this ladder right here, okay, if you wanted to get to this one, you got to walk all the way back here. But if you're trying to get to there, you just move from here to there. See the difference in what I'm talking about? Okay? All right. Through detailed planning and detailed switch list, essential for effectively switching railroad rolling stock to enhance rail movement, safety, and efficiency, a plan should guide each rail switching operation, detailing every single move. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Inspecting the tracks before receiving inbound cargo and presetting switches are crucial to planning steps. Do the same thing in a model railroad, okay? Before you start switching a particular area, look at how the switches are aligned, all right? One of the key things that I see when we as model railroaders operate a layout is you either run through a switch that's thrown wrong way because you're not paying attention to what you're doing, okay? Or you shove into the wrong location because, again, you didn't pay attention to which way that switch was aligned and what track you're supposed to go to. Don't put your locomotive in gear until you know your path and look down your path. In Houston, on the backside of Inglewood Yard, there's a holding yard, sub-yard inside the yard. And it's about 6 or 8 tracks, if I remember correctly. At least it used to be. I don't know if it still is now. But they had what they called puzzle switches, okay? Imagine a slip switch with an extra path on it, okay? A slip, you can go either way from either track, right? These puzzle switches had 3 different ways in and 3 different ways out. And it was one of the few places that you could, on the railroad, stand in between the rails and not get a reprimand or fired for doing it. That's a huge thing. You never stand between the rails at a railroad facility. You just don't do it. That's immediate danger. That's where the trains are coming through, and it's a thing. But it's so important down there in this, because if you don't have your path exactly lined up correctly, when you go into that puzzle switch, you're fixing to drop that locomotive or the car on the ground in the middle of the switch because it just rolls off the rail, okay? So you had to make sure that 3 different sets of points were aligned correctly, and the only way to do that is to get your eye on the rail and be able to visualize the connection from one to the next all the way down through that. Does that make sense to everybody? So that was one place that you could stand in the middle of the track and not get in trouble for it. But I've seen so many people, I mean, it's almost a daily occurrence for a new switch crew over there. If they're not paying attention, the switchman or the conductor will drop one on the ground in the middle over there, and you can hear them, okay, I need to get the car department over here and try to get this thing back on the ground, or back on the rails off the ground. So, okay, next slide, please. Leveraging location and knowledge. Something tells me that this switching crew right here, it's a 5-man crew back in the day, just from the looks of those guys, I think they probably knew their way around a railroad yard. What do you think? You know, knowing the territory is fundamental. Remember, if you'll think back to what we talked about last month, the very first thing that I told you when you're doing a switching operation, you should do is look at your location and find what? What was the first thing you're looking for? Runarounds, okay? Know your location and know all of the different paths that you're going to be looking at for that particular job, okay? So just like it says here, knowing the territory is fundamental. Understanding track clearance points is vital to prevent sideswiping in other cars. Right? You never get cars that are, sometimes you'll have a car that rolls unexpectedly because it wasn't chocked or the brake wasn't tied down or whatever, and it'll roll into a fouling point. Remember those marks on the track that we showed you? Right? How many of you are going to put those on your model railroad now so you know where your fouling point is? All right? And it doesn't, you can paint it on the rail if you want to, but like I told you last month, on my railroad, all I did was take mud color and paint the tie where the fouling point is. It's very unobtrusive, but if you know what you're looking for, you know what you're looking for, and it's right there. Okay. All right. Knowledge of runaround tracks and whys are necessary for maneuvering cars. Assessing tail room and switchbacks. So if you're taking a cut of cars and you've got to go down a tail track to make a reverse move, don't overload yourself. If you need to make 2 moves because it won't take 3 cars and you've got 3 cars to put in there, do 2 and then do 1. It's just what you have to do because you don't have the room and space to pull your locomotive and more than the amount of cars to be able to throw the switch to shove them back in the other end. Okay? Familiarity with the location of cars, inbounds and outbounds, and setbacks is paramount to efficient switching. If you work a job, normal switchmen will tell you, if I work that job 3 days, 4 days in a row, and then continue, you can walk out and look at your train and know what cars go where. It's just that common, okay? Oh, those hoppers are going to the XYZ flour company, and that flat car is going to the lumberyard, and that box car right there could go either to the XYZ company or the MM&O. And you just know. And then you start looking at it. And then, because you know your location knowledge, you start thinking about how to put them in order, which is the next slide, I believe. The art of blocking. Okay? So, when reviewing your switch list, identify the opportunities for cuts, groups of coupled cars, going to the same locations. Exactly what I was just talking about. Okay? I've got 2 hoppers here and another 2 back there, but they're all going to the same place. So let me group those together. As I mentioned last month, and I can't stress this and drive this home enough, typically model railroaders will read a switch list. We're going to talk about it in just a second. They will read a switch list and work the first car, then the next car, then the next car, then the next car, then the next car. And when you do, you're making moves from here to there. Oh, wait a minute, I need to make that same move again, from here to there, from here to there, instead of putting them all together and then making one move all the way across to the other location. All right, so block your cars and make efficient moves because we are, that's it. Okay, understanding how the train is blocked upon arrival in the yard is a key way to planning those efficient moves. Sometimes it's blocked, sometimes it's not. All right? Experienced operators understand that switching often involves an interwoven mixture of pickups and setouts, rarely following the switch list and order precisely. All right? Next slide. This is, can you blow that left side up just a little bit? Just zoom, hit your plus sign on your thing, on your keyboard. Will it zoom? There you go. Okay, back up, now slide it over a little bit. Okay, this is a typical switch list on my railroad that I'm moving to, okay? It's different. Oh, shut up, Trapper. This is an interface for JMRI that you can use, and it's developed by a user of JMRI. And if you look right here, it shows you pickups for Tyler, moves for Tyler Industrial, pickups for Tyler Industrial, setouts for Tyler Industrial. All right? And it over here on the side is a checkbox. We're going to talk about that in just a second as well. So once you make that move, check it off and you've got it, you know that, yes, sir?
Is that slam formatter?
No.
No, okay.
So you can see you've got your car number, your reporting marks, your car number, and it's a reefer that's empty. And it's in Tyler Yard. In Tyler Industrial, you've got this reefer that you just picked up. No, it's a different reefer, okay? Different, same reporting marks, different car number. And it's from the ice house, move it to Batson Seafood. Then you've got a reefer here that's from the ice house to Oppendorf Oysters. Okay? Those are the moves within the industries at that location. So you're just picking them up at one location and moving them to another track over. All right? Then you have set outs. This is the one you just picked up. It's going to the ice house for icing. And then you've got set outs in Tyler, the reefer that you picked up. It's going back to Tyler Yard. Now unzoom it, please, if you would. Keep going. There we go. When reviewing your switch list, identify opportunities for cuts or groups of couple cars going to the same place and move those multiple cars simultaneously. Avoid switching too many cars at once as it can complicate the engine handling, right? If you can, move 3 or 4 cars at the same time, a maximum of 6 on my layout. My trains on my layout, in my layout, we talked about this, my layout is 39 by 19, all right? That's a medium to large size layout by hobby standards, all right? My trains on my layout are no more than 10 cars. That's it, period, okay? Because you don't have room to do what you want in the switching environment, because that's what the industries and the way that everything is compressed and everything, all right? All right. Train blocking may not always follow the customer's order, the customer order in the way you're going. And like if you look at this whole line of buildings over here on the wall, you may have an industry back here, but the cars may need to come up here before you switch back to that one, just on the way that it all lines up. Okay? Understanding how the train is blocked upon arrival in the yard is key to planning those moves. And we can move on to the next slide. All right, this is the same information here, but a different switch list. This is for a transfer, a manifest train that departs Fort Worth and going to Tyler. And you can see there are pickups in Fort Worth, moves inside of McCarthy, which is an intermediate point. Thank you, back one. There we go. Moves, pickups in McCarthy, set outs for McCarthy, and then once we pick these pickups here, you're going to go and take these cars here and set them out in Tyler, and the train terminates in Tyler. All right, next. Yes, sir.
Who blocks cars and where do they block them? Like if you're in a yard or you're in a town, you're going to the next town, do you reblock the train at that point? Or who blocks the cars when you start out from the yard?
Good question. It depends on your yard master. Okay? It depends on your yard master and how much cooperation you have from other jobs helping you. All right? Because there are yard jobs. And if they're not doing anything, there's 2 things they can do. They can either help you by helping the yard master get ahead of the game and start blocking stuff, or they can go sit in the switchman shanty and drink coffee and read the paper. Both happen. Okay? Because the other thing is, everybody's looking for an early quit. I mean, this is real railroading, all right? Everybody wants to get off early and go home. You get paid for 8, whether you work 6 or 4. All right? So if I can work 5.5 hours and the yard master says, go home, you're done? Yeah, baby. Okay? But by the same token, the yard master may say, guys, if you don't mind, can you take track 12 and sort it out and block it for the morning job to do such and such? All right? Yes, sir.
How is the switch list compiled? Who does that?
The clerk does that. It's all just it's a list of cars that are going to a specific industrial area. All right? And the computer just spits it out. Okay? It's in random order. Makes no sense whatsoever. The computer doesn't know that. Okay? It doesn't block it for you. The other thing about blocking cars, I'll be with you in just a second, Mike. The other thing is, to answer the second part of your question, if the yard master doesn't do it, then it's the job that is delivering the cars. And many times you'll see them either have an intermediate yard where they can block the cars. They'll block them before they leave the yard with the cars. And they'll find a couple of tracks. They'll ask the yard master, hey, can I have track 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3 over here for a few minutes to block this out? And the yard master says yes or no. If he says no, okay, we'll figure out something else. And you go down the line and you find a place where you can set some cars out and start back and forth to put them together. So those are your options. Okay, Mike, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this programming. Is there any significance to the colors? Are those cars going to the same place? Is this an aid for you to visualize blocking the...
In real world, there is no colors. Okay? This is just the guy that developed this did it for visualization, for ease of understanding for the model railroader. Okay? But you'll notice that pickups are in red. Okay? Setouts are in blue. And inner industry moves are in yellow. Now, on my layout, and Trapper doesn't like my current switch list layout, okay? But when I set it up, okay, green is for go. That means I'm picking those up. Red is for stop. I'm setting those out. They're staying here, okay? Blue is intermediate. So I'm picking them up and doing something with them locally. That's the reason why my colors are the way they are. Green is go. Pick it up and go. Take it somewhere else. Red, I'm dropping these off. They're stopping here. And that's the reason I did my colors that way. All right? But this is a different color format, and it's marked accordingly. Okay? Next slide. Again, the text is the same over here, but this is an interchange job. And you can see that there's pickups. This is leaving Pine Bluff and going to McCarthy, and then turn around and going back, because it's 2 pages. Okay? So then it comes back to the second page. Slide back to the top, please. It goes back to Pine Bluff. So this is a Rock Island interchange on my layout. So it's picking up these cars out of this track in Pine Bluff. All right? And then it's going to Tyler. Slide down, please. It's setting out. It's picking up a car right here in Tyler. All right? Now, it's arriving in Tyler, but the interchange job would not do this right here. The Tyler Yard Master, the local switching job, would make that move from Tyler Yard to Domino Sugar. It's a local move. The interchange job they're not even doing that. But they are picking up some cars in Tyler. Then they're going to McCarthy, they're picking up, they're setting out, and then they leave McCarthy with 5 cars, 1 caboose, going back to Tyler where they're picking up another 3, they're setting out 2, and they're going back to Pine Bluff. Yes, sir. No, that's on my switch list. This is the one out of that guy's interface. Okay. All right, next slide, please. All right. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're running a local, excuse me, and this tells you to pick up and drop off here. So the ones you pick up, they have to go back to the yard to sort. Let's say you pick up in town A and it's going to an industry in town B. Can you drop that, or does it have to go back for paper reasons or going or whatever? Does it have to go back to the yard and then back out?
If it can be spotted immediately, then you go ahead and do that for efficiency purposes and report back to the clerk at the yard, and the clerk will make the appropriate paperwork adjustments and say, this car's already been spotted here, and bill the customer accordingly in the real world. Okay? I assume that's what you were talking about, right? Yeah. Yeah. If you've got a spot, for instance, Fort Worth to Dallas, but you have a car that you pick up in Grand Prairie, okay, or pick up in Arlington, but it needs to be spotted somewhere in Grand Prairie. Go ahead and spot it in Grand Prairie, be done before you make your way all the way to Dallas. You don't have to turn around and bring it back. Okay? All right. Many customers' needs, okay? Customers provide specific spotting instructions that dictate where their cars need to be placed. Now, I chose this picture here specifically because, as you can well imagine, these tank cars here could be filled with a lot of different type of petroleum products. One could be crude oil, one could be gasoline, one could be ethanol, one could be whatever type of grade of fuel or whatever. And so wherever you put those cars makes a difference. And the customer will tell you, you need to put this one at spot number 1 and this one at spot number 5 because of specific loading requirements. The other thing is, these tank cars are specific commodity cars, right? So if you've got one that's got crude oil in it and you try to put ethanol in it, whoops. Real world experience, okay? 3985 came to Texas back when it was running for the Republican National Convention in Houston, okay? And that locomotive had a specific grade of oil that it burned in the out of the tender into the firebox. A particular purchasing agent arranged for fuel to be delivered in Austin, and it filled up the tender in Austin. When it left Austin and started coming up Mopac, you could look at it and it looked like this black, huge, horrible smoke was coming from whatever, and it just was horrible. And there was no way it was being efficient, and the engine was running clean, because when a steam engine runs clean, there's hardly any smoke out of it at all, okay? The clerk had picked up the wrong kind of oil, and they put it in the tender, and it gummed up everything in the smoke box and all the flues. They couldn't get it cleaned out. The engine ended up laying down at Waco. They ended up having to dispatch a diesel from Fort Worth shops, running back down the track to Waco, pick it up and tow it in, and it stopped in Fort Worth for an overhaul and had to have all the flues cleaned out and everything. And it stayed here for about a week and a half getting repaired. Okay, those were the days when Steve Lee was in charge of the steam operation for Union Pacific, and he was not a happy guy. And I'm thinking that there was probably a gentleman who ordered oil who's looking for a new job. Okay? The guys on those steam crews, they, believe it or not, they've got extreme leverage when it comes to their operation. The last time, 4014, not this trip, but the previous trip, 4014 was running way behind schedule. And a guy that I know that works for UP was in the cab, and they had left Denton after what was supposed to be a whistle stop, but turned into an hour stop because there were so many people there. And they'd already had at Pilot Point, they got hung over at Pilot Point. They couldn't get out of there on time, and they were running really, really behind, to the point where the crew was almost about to hog out. Now, I don't know if you know what that means. That's the hours of service law. It's called the hog law because the congressman that put it together in the United States Congress, last name was Hogg. And at the time when the law was presented to Congress, the rail barons were causing railroad crews to work 12 and 14 and 16-hour shifts. And it became a danger to not only the crews, but to the public because the guys were tired and they were just overworking them. So they put in an hours of service law. And now you can't be on duty for more than 12 hours and run your train. If it's 12 hours and 1 minute, you stop wherever you are. Period. That's it. Tie up. When you stop, that's what it's called, tying up. You tie up your train right there, and you have to wait for another crew to come get you. Now, there's some responsibilities that the crew has to have because you have to notify the dispatcher and or your yard master, whoever's your next immediate supervisor, that, hey, I'm bumping into hours of service here. I'm going to time out. I'm going to hog out at X time. Okay? One job I was on, we were taking a train from Tyler to Texarkana, and the hottest train on the Cotton Belt was the Blue Streak merchandise. Okay? At one point, it was known as the hottest train, the fastest train in the world because it was an 85 mile an hour freight train. Okay? Yeah. It was thing. Even when the Cotton Belt days, when I worked there, if you delayed that train for more than 6 minutes, you had to handwrite a letter to the superintendent of the railroad saying why you delayed the train. So nobody wanted to do that. We left Tyler going to Texarkana. The BSM was inbound to Tyler. It had not left Pine Bluff yet. Okay, there's a division point in Texarkana. The dispatcher moved us out of Tyler Yard. We hit the first siding 10 miles outside of Tyler Yard at Owentown, and we sat there for 9 hours. No. My train. The Blue Streak was coming at us. Okay? We were northbound. The Blue Streak was southbound. And we sat there for 9 hours. The trip to Texarkana is 115 miles. Okay? Corsicana, Tyler was the hub of that division. You ran from Tyler to Corsicana, 90 miles, Tyler to Texarkana, 115 miles, 112 miles. And so on Super Bowl Sunday morning, I was on the Auto Parts West, which is another southbound hot train. And it was Super Bowl Sunday morning, and I turned to the engineer and I said, and it was one of my first trips, and I said, well, I guess we can cancel out going and watching the Super Bowl. He goes, not on my life. And he goes, we're fixing to go to Tyler. Okay? It was 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay? At 12:35, I was in my easy chair in Tyler at my house. Okay? He put the ears back on that locomotive and that train, and we went south. So that's how fast you could make the trip. We're sitting in the Owentown siding, and we sat there for 9 hours because the dispatcher didn't want us to get out in the middle of the track and have a problem. The BSM finally came past us. We rolled into Texarkana and got about from here to the kitchen away from the yard limits before we hogged out and tied up that close to the yard. Okay? Now, in a very smart move, the yard master had the yard crew shove a cut of cars out, couple onto the front end of our locomotives, and drag us into the yard. Okay? But that's how serious they take that. And that's what they ended up having to do. So, anyway. All right. The type and destination of certain cars, i.e. in this case tank cars, might influence the switching order to optimize train length and access to other tracks. Okay? Another thing that they will not endorse you doing, okay, If you've got a cut of tank cars, you got it that these are the few kind of cars now that you still have a roof walk on. All right? And when I worked for Houston, worked for the SP in Houston, we used to go to navigation and switch the shipyard down there. And that's petroleum. Okay? And we'd have 20 or 30 cars on a cut that are being shoved back down into a location for unloading a ship that's come in from wherever with petroleum on it. Well, it's an easy way to do it is for the switchman to get up on the top and do it like they used to do it back in the day. And we would get on the top next to the dome and give signals. Remember we talked about light signals and stuff? We'd give signals to the locomotive engineer because he could see that distance. And you could have your signals and you could switch 20, 30 cars with ease that way. Because we didn't have radios. You know, you just didn't back in those days. It was in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. The radios, if you got a radio, you were lucky. Yeah, it just wasn't that prevalent. Okay, next slide. All right, pursuit of the fewest moves. You can see these guys here studying their paperwork. They're trying to get their ideas together. Okay, we're going to put this car here, that car there, that kind of thing. A core of principle and efficient switching is to execute the job with the fewest and least time-consuming moves. Experienced railroaders develop a vast store of knowledge to anticipate and minimize those numbers of moves. Continuously seek better ways to switch a facility by reducing those wasted moves. All right? Consider the walking distance because we are, there you go. Even in model railroading, the goal is to plan moves strategically to avoid necessary back and forth to minimize the brakeman's walk. Job satisfaction for ground crews often comes from effectively working through the puzzles of switching in an efficient manner. Next slide, please. All right. Snidely whiplash. Dwayne will tell you that he and I often discuss the fact that in model railroading, when it comes to operations and planning an operating session, it brings out the sinister side of your personality. All right? Because you're always trying to figure out a way to gig the person who's running switch lists and things like that, especially if they're an experienced operator and think that they know exactly what's going on and don't. I got this. So throw them a curveball every once in a while. So how are we going to do that? All right. Red boards, yellow boards, and green boards. Next slide, please. This is straight out of the rule book as supplied, and I want to thank Greg Riccardi, who's on the call from New York, who helped me with taking a picture out of the rule book. Okay? A conditional stop. Stop before entering limits unless permission to the limits is obtained by the supervisor of whatever you're doing. If it's a track gang, if it's a yard, if it's whatever, if you see a red board, you stop there and you do not proceed until you've been given authority to do so. Okay? This is a conditional stop. This is a conditional stop sign. This right here is a stop warning sign. Prepare to stop or reduce speed as required. Now, the rule book has got a long list of proceed at speed pursuant to stopping 1/2 the visual distance for any impairment on the track ahead of time, so that it's very, very distinct speed restriction on how you have to do it. Okay, that's what the rule book says. But the idea is, if you see an impairment, reduce your speed enough to where you can stop half the distance between where you are and where the impairment is. Okay, and then don't do anything until you get permission to move forward after that. Okay? Next slide. Okay, this is a yellow over red, okay? Now, we didn't have this on the cotton belt, but this is the only way I could find a yellow board. So you can see you're moving into this area with reduced speed and with caution. Next slide. Then you've got reduce speed as required, and that speed reduction is going to be authorized to you and prior to you leaving your job in what they call a bulletin. And every job, every day when you look at it, you'll see the bulletins for your area. You read them and you understand that, okay, when I get to this milepost, I've got this problem and this thing I got to be careful of. And sometimes you don't get it. The bulletins don't apply to you. Yes, sir.
These signs are placed along the right of way, always on the engineer's side of the locomotive?
Typically, but not always. And if you'll notice, backslide one, that's not on the locomotive side. That's on the engineer side. Well, yeah. I mean, you couldn't put it over there.
So how do you know you have multiple tracks approaching these control points, which sign is specific to?
It's going to be in your bulletin. Track number 1 has a speed reduction at this location from here to here. Okay? They'll give you they're very proactive on notifying you.
And are these signs permanent or?
No, they're temporary. Temporary, yeah. And it may be up there for a month. It's not just a work of a day. It may be for a month, okay? Or longer, whatever. Okay? Next slide. That's correct. That's correct. Okay. So the next one here is in temporary restriction. Resume speed after the rear of the train has passed. So in my day, when the caboose passed the green board, the conductor would radio the engineer and say, resume speed, we're out of the speed restriction zone. And that way the engineer could increase and move forward at the regular speed. All right. All right. Next. All right. The next thing, blue flags. Okay. All right. So the blue flag is from the car department. And one of the things that a switchman, everybody's seen switchman's locks and locks that go on a switch handle and stuff. And a switchman all has keys to it, right? Well, the car department has a different lock and a different key that the switchman doesn't have. Okay? Now, if they want to block a particular track, they can lock that track with their car department lock, and a switchman can't go down there. Okay? That's the safest thing. However, if they're working on a particular car or track or something, in an area that's long and whatever, they don't want to go all the way down to lock it out. They'll hang what they call a blue flag on the track. And if you see a blue flag, you don't go anywhere near it if you're a switch crew. Okay? So, on your model railroad, okay, you want to have a little fun, make a blue flag and hang it on a track in your yard. Now, that yard track is out of service, and your yard master can't do anything with it because the car department has taken that track out of service. All right? So now you can increase the frustration level, as I talked about, being snidely whiplash and sinister, okay? That's it. Yes, sir.
Can a crew shove up to that sign?
Yes. Yeah. It's from that sign and beyond. Okay? Okay. Here is a clip that you could clip on the side of the track with a blue flag. There you go. Just like that. Thank you. All right. If you watch the videos of 4014, okay, I saw them do this at Big Sandy when they had a engine stop there and they were doing some small service work on the locomotive. And there were going to be crew members that were the service crew that travels with the train working on the locomotive. They hang a blue flag on the window of the engineer, okay, and they put their either their ID badge or their key fob on the blue flag. Right there. So until everyone comes back and reclaims their ID badge. Oh, okay, yeah, there's one right there. Go show it to, give that to David, or I don't know if you can put it on the screen or not.
They did that when it was parked in Fort Worth.
Yeah, yeah.
One right there. Is this 3? Or?
Yeah, whatever. Okay, look at this right here. See it? See there? Right there.
Now, that's the new updated version.
So they hang them there, and they don't move that locomotive until all of those are reclaimed, and everybody knows that that person is clear, and now we can move and proceed safely. Okay? So that's a blue flag and of a different type, not just a track, but this is for a movement of that locomotive. Okay? Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. All right. Yes, sir.
They did that Friday morning when we were out there.
Yeah.
Helping out.
Yep.
What's that mean up there?
Yep.
You can't do it.
You get means you can't do it. Daryl, yes, sir.
I saw a blue flag like that at Durango Silverton when they were getting ready to go out in the morning.
Yep.
And they had all the car people, they were down in the cars.
Yep.
And this, that, and the other. There was probably like 9 or 10 ID tags or key fobs on.
Yep. There you go. All right, next slide, please. Okay. Slow orders. Next slide. Let's back up one. Slow orders, okay? You may have a bulletin that says from this location to this location, reduce speed over the Trinity River Bridge until further notice. And it will come out in the bulletin until that notice is lifted. But it's a slow order because of bad trackage or whatever, and they're just reducing the speed for safety purposes. Okay, the next one is back up one, just a minute. Shoe flies, okay? I talked to Mike Armstrong yesterday just to double check on this. Mike was head of the engineering department for Burlington Northern, Santa Fe, BNSF, and all track laying in his job out there before he retired. So what better to get the answer from than to go to the source, right? And I asked him, how often are shoe flies used? Now, what's a shoe fly? All right, next picture. You can see here that they have rerouted the right-of-way to go around this construction right here. Okay? That's called a shoe fly. It goes around that construction while that construction is being done. Sometimes they don't even bother with rerouting the track back to the other location. Sometimes they leave it just like that. There is he and I talked about it. He sent me a text message after we talked about it because I asked him, how often are shoe flies used? System-wide on the BNSF, probably a couple of times a year, okay, at various locations, different projects, derailments, very seldom, he said, they use shoe flies around derailments. They didn't do that often, okay? But there is a location where you can see a shoe fly that was used and then rerouted back, okay? Beside First Baptist Church of Fort Worth at 820 and the Union Pacific, where the track goes across 820, there are 2 bridges. There's 1 track. They went ahead when they put the building the bridge. They had a bridge. The track was there. They built the shoe fly. They kept the second bridge and they built the first bridge. They replaced the first bridge and put it back. And they left the second bridge in case they ever want to double track that. Then the bridge is there. Yes, sir.
Rosedale, when they widened Rosedale, they put a bunch of new bridges,
Mm-hmm.
and you ended up with 2 bridges.
There you go. Yep. So sometimes it's better just to go ahead and put it in and leave it in case they do it anyway. Okay. All right, that's a shoe fly. You can put shoe flies on your railroad, okay? Yep, exactly. All right, next slide. Okay, here we go. This is fun, okay? Personality cards, okay? There is a gentleman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Jim Sinisi, okay? Jim operates the Kansas City Terminal Railroad. That's his layout. And it's a stretch layout like this. And it's 4 different railroads. And on that, every crew and every railroad has its own personality. Okay? And I will tell you how this all happened, because I talked to Jim 2 nights ago and I heard it straight from him and how this all came to pass. When Jim was working in his day job, okay, he did a master's thesis in college after well into his business career, but he was talking about company cultures. And he went and interviewed different people as part of his thesis that worked for the railroad. And he talked to people at the KCS, he talked to people at the Frisco, he talked to people at the MOP, and he talked to, what's the other one? Santa Fe, that all served the Kansas City area. And he found that these different railroads had different cultures based off of the people he interviewed. So he built that into the operation of his layout. And so when you go there and you go to operate his layout, of which it's going to be on that operations weekend that I told you about in Tulsa in a couple of weeks. When you walk into his layout, you're assigned a crew to work with, and isn't it done 2-man crews? 2 or 3? Yeah. And you're given an envelope, but you don't know what your personality is. Okay? And you'll be assigned, okay? And so I talked to him, and he sent me the personalities for the different railroads. And here's what he found, okay? The Frisco. Now, some people in the room may dispute this, but this was his findings when he talked to the people at Frisco. Their disposition was they were a no-nonsense and not very friendly. Okay? Frisco employees feel that their work is the most important and that every other railroad is trivial and simply an annoyance. Okay? Their cooperation level. Requests by other railroads may get ignored as the Frisco does their work, period. They have even been known to block a switch just to keep others from interfering with them while they're switching. The Frisco may take advantage or try to take advantage of the other railroads, especially the KCS. All right? So when you're operating on his layout, this is in the back of your mind, and you operate accordingly. All right? Now, he sent me the other one from the KCS, okay? Their disposition, they're in their interview. They were really nice people. Their motivation, we're trying really hard. We're doing the best we can with what we've got. If something breaks, we'll hold it together with baling wire or hay wire. There you go. Okay? Cooperation. They're willing to offer to help anyone on any occasion. Will offer to interchange someone else's cars while doing theirs. Unfortunately, the Frisco always ends up taking advantage of the KCS. Oh, by the way, the Frisco's motto, if they had a motto, it would be, we would give our right arm for ourselves. The KCS motto is, howdy, neighbor. You know, that's it. So these are things that you can add in to increase the fun level or change the sophistication of your railroad a little bit. All right? Next slide. Situation cards. Okay? I haven't invoked these yet on my layout, but it's coming for those of you who operate on my layout. Okay? What I'm going to do is have Alexa, I'll set a timer on Alexa. When the buzzer goes off, then there will be, the dispatcher will notify you guys of, notify the operators that we have a situation that has arrived, arisen, okay? A bridge inspection, reduce speed to 5 miles an hour on all bridges for the next 10 minutes. Real time, okay? A train stalled out. All trains hold and put out red flags for 5 minutes. Basically, you just take a break, okay? All right, union strike. All mainline trains must stop at the next siding for 5 minutes. These things really happen, right? Okay. Mainline switch bad order. Switch at milepost X out of order for 10 minutes. All right. Earthquake at X. Send an inspection car to the location to assess the damage. So everything stops, and you have to send out a special car out there and shove it out to do an inspection on the rail line at that point. Okay? Train robbery. Stop all passenger trains at next siding for 10 minutes and wait for railroad police to board. Okay? And then finally, this is one I love best. Solar eclipse. Close all doors and shades and turn off the lights and run in the darkness for 15 minutes. All right? All right? All right, next slide. Any questions? Tom?
I'd just like to make a pitch for, if you ever get a chance to operate on Jim Sinisi's layout. Yes. It's great. I've been both the 8-hole Frisco crew. I've also been on the KCS crew where we, helped everybody and didn't get our work done. And then I think we also did Santa Fe one year where I think they were all just very properly dressed. We buttoned our shirts up. And, we were very prim and proper and, tried to follow rules. I think ring a bell. But anyway, just if you get a chance to go to Tulsa sometime, visit Jim Sinisi.
He whenever I emailed him and he called me back, I said, I haven't had the operate. I've been to Tulsa several times. I've operated on Steve Davis's layout, which is the KCS layout that is absolutely unbelievable layout. If you've ever been to Steve's house, he's got a separate building out beside his house that's 30 by 40. I'm getting there, Clarence. I'm getting there. He's got a building that's got the third sub of the KCS, the Havener sub, in one building, and he's just expanded to double the size of his layout into another 30 by 40 building, and it's going to be the second sub of the KCS, and he's modeling all the towns correctly. I talked to him a couple of days ago when I was getting Sinisi's information, and Steve's was telling me that this weekend he should have all of the mainline track down in the second building and complete it. Just a sec. And so I talked to him. There's that layout. Jim Sinclair has got a beautiful layout based on the Southern Pacific going over Donner Pass. It's set in the days of steam, and the showstopper train on his entire layout is a reefer block that is double-headed with cab forwards, with a cab forward in the middle of the train, and you run them all three together, and the train is probably as long as from me to Clarence back there. It's massive. That's where I first was introduced to the military train that I built, because he's got it sitting on a siding right there. Beautiful layout. Ken Ellers, another narrow gauge layout in Colorado. Ken used to be a member out of Houston of the LSR and has won, I think, every single modeling award that there ever was in the LSR and contest room. Amazing modeler. MMR, obviously. Claremore and Southern is a layout that used to be there. It's not there anymore. It was a club, and the clubhouse flooded after the owner died. But Sinisi's is another layout. And then Doc, what's his name? Is it Holiday? The pilot?
I think it is.
Anyway, So anyway, great layouts up there. It's literally a nest of beautiful, beautiful layouts. Be with you in just a second. Yes, sir.
Question on the makeup of trains going out of the yard. You're saying to classify the cars that go to certain destinations together.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the real world, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So if you, I mean, like in the hump yard, okay, all the cars in track 5 are going to Kansas City, track 7 are going to New Orleans, track 9 are going to San Antonio. Okay, so they put them all together and block them that way, but yeah.
I mostly do local runs. In the reverse of that, can you, or do they actually set up cars when they pick them up for the track that they're going to go into the yard?
No, that's the yard job. Y'all deal with it on your own. We're trying to get off the main line and get back to the yard. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yes, sir.
On that first layout you were talking about, the KCS one.
Uh-huh.
What era is it?
70s and 80s. And if you go online to, I think it's the website is KCS Third Sub, you can find videos and all kinds of stuff. Look online on YouTube. He's got a number of YouTube videos out there. He also had been written up either 2 or 3 times in Craftsman magazine. Okay. Yes, sir.
Last talk, you talked about the location designations. Each spotting spot in the yard had a location. So when you're blocking the train, do they indicate there what the locations are when the switchmen are looking to do it? I mean, would that be the customer says we wanted a door 4, and you know that door 4 is location number 7 or something like that? So
That's left up to the switching job to do that. It's not done in the yard. Okay. And the final thing I want to mention is bad order cards, bad order sheets. Okay. This is something you need to have at every model railroad and fill out during every operating session. Okay. If you've got a car that's giving you problems and the operator has identified it, fill out this form, okay? And on the form, it's got the date, the reporting marks, the location where the problem was, okay? What the problem is, what end of the car was it, okay? So if it's a coupler, is it on the A end or the B end? How do you know? What's the difference? Steel.
To the B end of the car.
Correct. The B end of the car is where the brake wheel is, basically. Okay?
On cabooses.
There's one on either end, but yeah. Yeah. But if it's a freight car, whichever end the brake wheel is on, that's your B end. Okay? So keep that in mind. B stands for brake. Okay? And then who the operator was that reported it. That way, the owner of the layout can come back and call you after the layout session if they're over with and say, hey, Steele, you told me that such and such and such and such is on here, but I don't really know exactly what you were talking about. Can you explain it better? Okay? So do that, fill this out, and take the car. You can bad order it, put it in a siding, do whatever you want to, take it off the layout for the rest of the operating session, whatever, but do not put it back into service until you've completed the repairs here, because I will tell you from personal experience, all it's going to do is give you problems if you put it back into service without correcting the problem. And sometimes the problem's not the car. Sometimes it's the track work, okay? So, okay, that's the reason I've got location on here, all right? So that's it. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Steve Campbell, thank you. Doc Campbell, thank you. He's a retired physician. He's also a pilot and used to fly in a aerobatics group that was all doing World War II, restored World War II fighter planes. And they would do air shows and different things like that. I know they do flyovers at football games and stuff like that as well. So yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry? Flight surgeon. Was he a flight surgeon too? Okay, didn't realize that. His layout is an interchange layout like Sinisi's, only it's not, his is more of a regular style layout, but it's like 3 different railroads that you're interchanging with, and it's another great layout to operate on. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you explain to them how we know the return, how to, oh God, now I'm stumbling over it. How we know to resume regular speed? How do you know on the train how to return to max speed?
Well, if you pass the green board and you know that, or you know the length of your train, and okay, so back in the day, okay, this microphone's cutting out.
You're good.
You're good.
All right. The telegraph poles, there were 10 telegraph poles per mile back in the day. And so the locomotive engineer, before there were speedometers in locomotives, all right, I'm getting to answer Trapper's question, but I got to give you some foundation for it first. Okay. So there were 10 telegraph poles to a mile, and however long it took you to pass 10 poles, you divide that out and determine if it was a 1 minute, then to go past 10 poles, then you're going 60 miles an hour. All right? Half of that, 30 miles an hour. And you just work it out mathematically. All right? Now, the other thing you need to think about is train length. So if I have a train that's 5,000 feet long, okay, and I pass milepole 6, and the milepole 6 is where the bulletin tells me that the slow order is, okay, and I can't reduce speed. The slow order is for 1 mile to milepole 7, then my train is basically a mile long. When should I resume my speed? When the locomotive reaches milepost 8, because the rear would be past milepost 7. So then you know you're clear. If you don't have a caboose on the rear end with a conductor in it. All right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was trying to explain, but
Yeah.
a little bit, you did a better job at it.
Well, thank you. Okay.
It's been a while.
Other questions? I think that's it.
Mike, thank you very much. Great.
You're
great
welcome.
presentation. Let's give him a big hand. Okay, that wraps up.
Are we gonna get printouts of these? Does he have it online?
No, it's online. It'll be
It's
in the web.
online. Well, the presentation itself is not online, but the video is online. What do you want to print out of?
The presentation.
The whole thing? Contact Mr. Cranda. He's got it on the disk up here for the computer. There's a printer over here that we can hook up to and try to get you a printout if you want one. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, next meeting is, we'll have the clinic, the make and take. So please get signed up on the list that Harold's got. Daryl,
Please leave the chairs.
leave the chairs tonight. Okay.
Hey, one other thing. One more thing I gotta mention. Some of you, if you'll have your seats just for a second, guys. There is some of you have noticed that there's been a post floating around about a layout down in Tyler that was up for auction. You may have seen it posted on different railroad boards, okay? I'm sorry, I should have brought this up earlier in the meeting, I apologize. But the gentleman that ended up taking possession of that layout is a guy by the name of Shane Murphy down in Tyler. And Shane and I have been in contact, and there are a number of buildings that are available for purchase off of that layout. There is, and I'm going to run down through it real quick. There is a Walther's Ice House and platform, 3 buildings plus the icing house platform. There are about 40 rock plaster casting molds from Woodland Scenics. There's a Bachmann Easy command station controller with all the wires and cables. There is an electric substation. There's about 8 of these that have high voltage steel transmission towers. There are bridges that are long and longer. Some of them are metal double track bridges. They're painted so they don't know if they're brass or steel, but it is ferrous metal because a magnet will stick to it. There's also a double track helix that's extremely very well built, 24 and 26 and a half radius, code 83, 6 loops, about 28 inches from top to bottom. The helix is very, very nicely done. I've got a picture of it here, and it has a mounting platform for the helix. I asked him what the pricing was on this stuff. He goes, price sell. So if you are interested in any of the things I just mentioned, if you'll see me, I'll give you Shane's contact information. And you're the first people that have knowledge about anything that he's selling. He just sent me this stuff last night, and I told him I would mention it at the meeting today. So.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
See you next month. Thank you very much for attending.